30 helicopters in GTA 5, but when the game released, there was only 35 helipads. Luckily, although normally overlooked even by veteran players, Rockstar added 12 more during DLCs. And let's be honest, you probably can't name all 12 of those. However, which of them is the best place to park your mighty whirlybird? Let's answer that question. To start, these 4 helipads are by far the worst in the game. Why do you ask? Well, let's break it down. They don't look very nice, they're not very well upkept, there's too much competition with other helipads in the area, it's not connected to a fun, unique, or useful business, and I don't think they deserve more than last place. Just ahead of them is the Heli Storage North Pad, which looks slightly better than the other ones and is more clear that it's a helipad. Jumping to the east, Central Los Santos Medical Center gets 40th and 41st for its 2 very similar landing spots, because they aren't anything too special, which is mostly why they're at the bottom of the list. Going back to where we started with the helicopter storage, the south pad looks just good enough to put it ahead of the others, but it's still pretty shit. Now, many police stations also have helipads for their Police Maverick helicopters, but LSPD Vinewood and LSPD Vespucci are the worst of that category, mostly because of their looks and how they're not really well kept. I mean, they're basically just dirt pads on top of nicer, newer looking buildings. LSPD Davis is not much better, but they did decide to get rid of those ugly dirt pads, which puts them above the last 2. Unfortunately, if I keep naming LSPD stations, people may get confused with my emergency buildings ranking, so let's jump to LSIA. LSIA has 3 main helipads, and they all look the same, and have the same competition levels. So how did I rank them? Well, I ranked them on spawn rates and how close they are to the entrances. Which means out of the 3, number 2 is the worst of the 3, making it 3rd. But 3 is the best, making number 1 number 2, meaning in order of 1, 2, 3, it's 3, 1, 2. Got it? Good. Glad we could clear that up. Now, I did just mention that we're going to stop talking about LSPD helipads, but they aren't very good, so they're all down here on the list. The La Mesa station has 2 helipads. East isn't really used as much. I do like the wooden theme, but it also means it's not going to last very long, and you can tell that the west one has gotten a lot more use, especially since the salvage yard missions ended up bringing people to this location a lot more. Now, out of the entirety of Fort Zancudo, we have 2 helipads, and they don't really use them. They just park the helicopters wherever their heart desires. The helipads themselves are very lackluster, but do have a slightly different design and font from previous landing stations, so that's pretty cool. Now we're going to get into the top 28, and this is where they get a little bit more unique. Weasel News appears to be dirt, but it surprisingly isn't. Though this did make me question why we don't have a news helicopter in the game. Like, this camera angle clearly tells us there's a news helicopter, but where the fuck is it? The Long Bank Tower is the first major tower that surprisingly isn't an ownable business. It's also the first blue helipad that we see in this list, but also it just kind of exists there. The news headquarters on the east side of the map have 2 identical helipads, one north and one south, which tie for 25th place, having basically the exact same design and the same accessibility. Rooftop Rumble was an iconic mission back in the day, but I really don't understand why there's a helipad on top of this parkade. Like, who's just coming here with their helicopter? I mean, it looks nice, and it's somewhat on its own, but why is it here? The Richards Majestic building always gives me like CEO office or agency vibes, but no, it's just a building. Now, despite not having an ownable business here, the helipad is one of the largest in the city, and it's kept in great condition. And I'd love to own this, to be honest. Located in Little Seoul... Wait. What? Oh, yeah. This is the first of 12 that weren't in the game initially. And, there we go. Now, it may have gotten rid of this building's entire ventilation system, but it does give players access to their agency, so that's helpful. Another agency that needed a helipad addition is the Vespucci Canal Agency, which really shows the LSPD station what a good helipad can really look like. I personally love blue helipads, and I think they look great. For a newspaper company, the Daily Globe does a good job just squeezing into the top 20. It's got a lot of competition and isn't the safest helipad, being so low compared to the skyscrapers beside it, but credit where credit's due, it's a good looking place for a helicopter. Now, topping the specific list of weirdest business to have a helipad is the Nutsaki restaurant. I mean, who's just coming here with their luxury helicopter to get food? And who names a restaurant Nutsaki? It literally says nutsack. What the fuck? Now, despite the amount of times that players have robbed El Rubio's island, we can't rob him of his helipad. He's the only NPC to get his own personally owned helipad, which sometimes even players don't get access to. However, it is just a dirt circle, and it really only gets this high because of its wonderfully warm location. Now, going back to the mainland, a typically forgotten location also has a cargo bob spawn, and it's at the Merryweather docks. It's better than your normal helipad, but it's hard to get into without actually being shot at. Now, this one may surprise you being this high, because Sandy Shores has a horribly upkept helipad. But it does fit the area, and it has decent spawns and very little competition. So unless you convince me that it needs to be lower on the list, I'm putting it right here. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot to script the Pillbox Hill Medical Center helipad into the video, so here it is. It's hard to believe that it was all the way back in 2015 that Rockstar added yachts to the game. But that was a big day for helipads, as 5 new ones were added to the game with yachts. Obviously the worst one is on the Orion, the cheapest yacht, mostly because it looks the worst and nobody actually owns it. And that's why there's no footage of it, because even after hours of going through numerous lobbies, I couldn't even fucking find one anywhere. No one owns this. Now this one was probably one of the easiest ones to name because its name is written right there on the roof in big letters. And NPCs seem to be a big fan of this one. So despite it not being great, the court of public opinion does say, "Stay Frosty!" is the best helipad. So I had to bump it a little bit, right? One of my personal favorites is the Arcadius Business Center. I love this building, I own this building, and I live in this building. It's a great downtown option, and despite having lots of competition, it's honestly got a great design going for it, and this whole building being circular, helipad just fits. It just does. Now you probably thought we were done talking about it, but there is one more police station with a helipad, and it's really climbed the ranks. Being the only helipad north of the Alamo Sea, the Paleto Bay Sheriff's Office has a really unique design. I mean, look at the triangle with the H, and it's pretty well upkept. Mazebank West was one of the earliest and cheapest helipads that we could own as players. Alongside those features, it's very well upkept and was the first helipad I and many other players had, so it holds a special place in many people's hearts. The top 10 starts off with the remainder of the yacht helipads. Each one has the great bonus of having multiple places to park, and the helipads are well needed for these beasts of the ocean. So to fire through the 4 that are left, 9th is on the Pisces bow because you just hit its tail if you land the wrong way. 8th is on the Aquarius' stern because it's a great standard helipad for yachts. 7th is the Pisces yacht stern, which is the same as the last one, but I own it and I'm giving it personal bias. 6th is on the Aquarius' bow because the look of a helicopter on the bow of a boat is just beautiful, and it doesn't hit the rest of the boat like Pisces does. Which means we're on to the top 5 helipads, 4 of which were not in the game at its release in 2013. In 5th place, the Rockford Hills Agency has a beautiful helipad and has the biggest improvement from before the helicopter landing existed. How are you supposed to land when there's like 6 solar panels in your way? However, there is a lot of helipads near it, so the competition is high, which knocks it down to 5th place. For 4th place, the Hawick Agency looks really good with a helipad, and honestly, this building should have had one from the start. I also love that the helipad hangs off the side of the building, and I'm impressed by Rockstar for moving the entire roof access. I mean, that must have been quite the feat for the interior design. Because that building has an interior, right? That we can access? Bringing Home the Bronze is the only OG helipad from day 1 of GTA 5's release. And obviously, it's the Mazebank Tower helipad. Being the most iconic helipad in the entire city, people have landed way more than helicopters here, and it's become a treasure trove of challenges and clips from back in the day. But it's also ownable by a player with the Mazebank office, which gives it a lot of bonus points. The silver medal isn't quite the diamond Casino and Resort was hoping for, but that may be because of the fact that this helipad was not always there. And it was not always the Diamond Casino and Resort. It used to be the Vinewood Casino or the Be Lucky Los Santos. Now quickly, before I mention the winner, here are some honorable mentions. The USS Lexington aircraft carrier, although it has helicopters, does not have any clearly labeled helipads. So I don't want to see any comments telling me otherwise. Also, North Yankton doesn't have any helicopters or helipads, despite the fact that Michael keeps telling Trevor and Brad that they need to get to the helicopter.
I say there's a chopper, there's a chopper.
Side note, if you like these ranking videos of the randomest things in GTA, we've ranked a lot on this channel, and at 100,000 subs, I'm going to rank all 34,000 trees in the game. But getting back on track and taking the gold is the Kosatka Helipad, being the only helipad that is both inside and outside of a business, and can be driven anywhere, including underwater. And despite only storing the Sparrow, this is by far the best helipad in the game. Quick side challenge, can you find the 3 gas stations I missed in this ranking video? I bet you can't. It took me like 2 months to find the last one.